Alright, hello everyone. I am back here for Tour 10, more Tour 10 guides. I am going to go at it with quarterback 10 here. If you want to take a look at the stats, power is about even, topspin, pretty decent. More importantly, backspin and ball guide and accuracy are going to be the reason for using this club. I do want to just make an additional note, relying on Kingmaker, Katana, Titan, kind of in that order. So 1, 2, 3, Kingmaker first, Katana second, Titan third as kind of a last resort. Side spin typically becomes, a little bit more useful than distance. So we're going to try to do some more Tour 10 here. And we're going to hopefully rely on quarterback here to get the job done. And like I said, we'll just kind of, for the most part, just kind of wing it a little bit. You can see with this hole, anytime you get a wind in the face like this, it's just going to be a straight layup. So having to lay up with a quarterback isn't going to be the end of the world. I'm almost going to get it out to where an extra mile is going to, so it's going to be very close. Not to mention, something like a good ball, I don't have to worry about missing the fairway, for example, with quarterback. So that's one of the aided benefits to using this club to begin with. And you can just kind of see, when I extend above max power here, I'm just trying to do like an estimation. You can see that, I'm about 8 rings into power. So we can basically visualize, the landing zone is going to be right around that red line. So you just want to jam it forward just to kind of get a sense of what's going to happen. And aside from that, I'm just going to put a little bit of curl back to the left and just get this shooting down the fairway here. And there you have it, just kind of shooting it up down here into the shadow. No real issues. And I would have had, if I would have put more curl on it, it would have been a little bit more centered. So I didn't have much bailout to the right, but I had plenty of bailout to the left. I could miss an entire bullseye to the left with quarterback with my accuracy. Since I didn't really curl it a lot, I didn't have a lot of room on the right to miss. But of course, if you want to, side spin it a little bit more, then you can do that and give yourself a nice kind of out, per se. So let's just size this up a little bit. You can see there's kind of max, mins down here. We're going to play this probably around 2 per, maybe a little bit less, 1.8 per. So 1.8 would be 6 rings or so. So I'm not going to crack up the backspin too much because it's straight into the wind, and you can see that it's not really going to, and I'm going to use the bullseye here as the target, and I'm going to make sure that I go at least 6 rings. I might just try to straighten it out just to kind of hold the line, get it going pretty towards the hole. Just need it just a little bit more, not very much. I could have gone an extra ring. One of the things that I don't like doing about that when you are close to a mound is doing an extra ring. An overplay could end up making you land on a little bit more of a wonky spot. So it's best to just kind of play it more straight up, and that's why you saw me trying to counter it there. Oh, what happened? I wasn't even paying attention. I didn't even know I won. I saw that guy on the green, just figured, guess he missed that putt. So let me just keep going here. I'd really prefer if they'd stop giving us some par fours. So all these cliff par fours in this tour are somewhat drivable, and I can get myself in a little bit of trouble. This one's not too bad. Could end up beating somebody out, or tying them with a hole out just as easily as they could. What you're going to see me do is I'm going to aim just a little bit over here with some curl and just kind of cut this corner, but not too much. I don't want to hit it into the OB, but I'm just going to kind of get the momentum of the ball shooting around to the left. I usually don't go too much into that shadow, so you see me just kind of usually set up my spin. I don't know how much I might have needed to go full into that wind. I can't remember what I did, but I usually try to stay right around the base of that shadow. It gives you a nice, better angle into the green, so there's no reason to usually beat it down any farther. And all I was trying to do was just kind of creep it right to the bottom of the shadow. So if you want a target line for this hole, that would be a very nice one. Like I said, you do not need to, try to crush it down and get every last bit of fairway on this hole. Like some people you will see, they do that. They, run it up 10 yards into that shadow. All you're doing more than anything is just kind of cutting off your angle a little bit when you do that. And depending on the wind, it can make things a little bit more challenging. This isn't going to be too bad here. You can see we are going to be very close to max here. I'm going to do my 3 backspin, and we are right on the max number. So one of the things that I do want to mention is we are shooting to a downward target here. So if my max ring adjustment is 1.5, that would be 6.5 rings, but I need to make sure that I'm going to go at least 7.5 rings, shooting to a lower target. Let's try this. See what this looks like. Still not enough. So 8.5 might have been the number. Shooting to a lower target, plus it being a crosswind, means that the the wind's kind of carrying the ball to the left much more than it would on a straight wind or a lower wind. So you always have to factor in something. You either need to do some kind of counter or you need to do an overplay, and that's what you were seeing me do. I was trying to estimate the overplay there, and I didn't quite estimate enough. So one more ring would have really helped, and I would have been very close. And you can kind of see the elevation changes here. We're up on a higher hill, and the ball is kind of shooting way up into the air and then dipping to a lower target. Let's just keep rolling here and go into the shootout here, and let's see what we got here. Figure out a way to do this. I'm gonna have to, anytime you bring quarterback, First off, the first thing that I want to just kind of mention to you guys is you can kind of see that lovely guide that we have there. I'm going to, attempt to kind of do this kind of like this, and then I'm going to need to also go about 10 rings at least. So I'm going to need to go into some power here. So let's try this. Notice how I'm taking off a lot of that. Ooh, didn't want that great ball. Keeping it a little bit higher on the hill makes this a little bit easier of a shot. Let's see if this careens down. No, it's not going to. It's going to stay up. Crap. So a little bit too much power. Just gently. Kind of might have cost myself the hole here. I feel kind of bad about that effort that I just put out there. Man, I should have known with a little bit less backspin that it wasn't going to careen down that hill on its own like it usually does. If you see the way that I usually play it, it's with some backspin, and I really didn't have the luxury of doing that there. Had I kept that high up on the hill, it probably would have. So this is another reason that going up high can be helpful, is it will use more of the natural fairway and kind of avoid staying up there. And you're seeing my opponent also leaving it up here. Wow. I think my opponent still won. So just holding on there. So a little disappointing there on my effort, but let's just keep rolling with it. I should have never left it up there. It kind of left my mind a little bit on that shot, but not the end of the world. It's okay. I just try to move on, try to, remember what I did there and just make up for it next time. So here, especially with the wind like this, we're just going to try to crush it. I'm going to be able to go very little curl. There's a perfect ball. It's going to be hard with quarterback to get to this green in 2, but you can basically assume that your opponent, probably isn't going to get to the green in 2 anyway. And depending if your opponent does, then we can try to do something a little bit more creative, depending on how well their tee shot is. I don't know if you guys remember, I was kind of talking the order of what you need to do if you're going to play quarterback or rock or Thor's Hammer. My first club of choice will be Thor's Hammer. Next will be rock 8, then quarterback 10, and then rock 7. What's nice about this club is you got a little bit of, look at this, we got straight downwind. So one of the things that I can do, let me see if I can do this. I just want to show you guys a little bit more of a creative shot, aiming up at a higher elevation like this. Oh, we're not even going to get to see it. I don't know why he would bail out when, that's unfortunate. Why would somebody bail out when I'm going for that crazy shot? I mean, I could have put it in the water, and plus he was straight downwind, could easily get to the layup zone there. All right, So one of the things that I'm going to try to do is just kind of hit it right in this fashion. It looks like, you can see a lot of ball guide with quarterbacks, so we're just going to basically hit it as hard as we can for the most part. And not really do much with the curl here. There you're seeing perfect ball. We're just ideally trying to get it to claw distance, and that's why you definitely see me with it's one of the biggest reasons that I'd suggest putting on a Kingmaker when you go this way, just to get every last bit of yard. In fact, actually, one of the benefits to Thorn is the fact that you can have 3 extra yards. Is it 2 yards? You either get 2 or 3 extra yards on the club. So I'm gonna have to go at this laying up, and this is a relatively hard hole to go this way anyway. So you don't have to really fear too much of your opponent, other than they'll probably get a pitch of some sort. Oh wow, that's bad break. That's unlucky. So here you can see we're very close to the end of the club, but not quite. And let's see what we need to do in terms of, what I usually do. We're going to try to land it on the fringe surface here, more kind of right in here. And I'm thinking maybe 9 rings. So at 1.5 per ring. Let's just try 9, a little bit over 9. So we're a little bit into power. Let's see what I can do here with this shot. Did hit the right surface. It's coming back. Not quite enough. It's close. So going that way, wow, it has a little bit extra risk factor that I really didn't realize. I didn't realize that cliff was really in play going that way. So for all those who are watching here, this guy play, I do want to say, if your first ball goes out of bounds, you are using a second ball. So he's on a second ball. So in case you're not aware of that, you might not want to just keep the same ball. You might want to go to switch balls or whatever. First off, that ball should be basically strictly for downwind anyway. So if you're playing into the wind, I would suggest into the wind that you never have it on. You switch to a Kingmaker or maybe Pot of Gold or something like that. Even one of the new movie or Easter balls, something like that. That kind of, it's going to get you to bore through the wind a little bit farther. Juniper 5, so let's see what we can get on this one. We've been getting this one a couple times. It sure beats the other one. Getting the other one can be a little bit dicey. This one I kind of like. What's nice is you get a win like this, and it's basically determined that both of you are going to need to lay up. So that's one of the nice things. Plus, you can see, one of the good things about quarterback is you can really see that ball guide. So I'm assuming maybe 9 rings from there, maybe just a little bit of curl as well. Just kind of get it into that little gully over there. You don't want to get too aggressive because it is, starting to hit a downslope up there. So you want to be a little careful. And that's what you see me doing there. More of a, strategic layup for, a second shot. You can still get the second shot to a manageable pitch to where we can still get eagle depending on the next wind. So we'll just see what we get and try to go from there. And you can see definitely for this drive, quarterback is a lot easier than extra mile. I don't really have to guess on anything. I can just kind of see where it's running out to. There's guys with extra mile or whatever. They have at least a little bit that they have to kind of anticipate for themselves. And just like this guy's doing, I would do a little bit more of the similar, as I'd play it a little bit more conservative as opposed to squeezing out every last yard when you really don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to try to do this with some curl here, probably phone type curl. And we'll try to use this as the target line somewhere in here. Let's see what this looks like. I did jam the topspin straight up and then curl it. I feel sometimes I get a little extra run out when I do that, so that's why you see me doing that. Oh wow, he's got Horizon on. So this is going to go for a ways. Terrible for shootouts. Can't believe this guy plays with this thing. But man, this could be beastly. If he would have drove it farther, he could have put me in a bad way. He could have probably rolled this sucker on. It's going to be a little bit harder to do that, especially with the loss of precision. Oh, perfect ball. There's a start. But one of the things that sometimes happens with straight topspin is it can be hard to curl and actually get it back. There you're not seeing a problem, but just something to keep in mind. Now I butchered this pretty bad once. I'm going to probably try to just land it right here this time. It's either that or go for the dunk. So those are kind of the two things that I'm thinking. And this is right about half a club. So I'm going to just crank up the backspin just a touch. Kind of land right here. And I'm going to try to do it with, about 5 rings here. Just try to hold the line on the cup. Let's just see what this looks like. There it is, run it into the pin. It's kind of my preferred method to play pitches. Last time I did it a little bit different. I think it was a little bit longer. I didn't quite get down this far. If you guys caught that part of the stream, it's also in this. And well, this guy must be a little bit farther than me because when he jacks up the spin, he's a little bit deeper than I am. Nothing that can't be solved with a nice headwind though. So I'm assuming this guy probably will be okay, especially if he hits perfect ball here. That he should probably slam it into the slammed it into the pin too hard though. So just a half a ring too hard, maybe 1 ring too hard. Little bad unlucky break there. You want to be a little careful on those. But that was kind of the disadvantage of him being a little bit farther. Means his ball, went higher up into the air. so the bounces were a little bit longer, so you could see that, you know, he was having a little bit more trouble stopping the ball, as when you looked at my ball guide, it just kind of looked like it was going to, you know, the ball guide was on its own originally right in front of the hole. You had to do a little something extra there to get the ball to come back. Oh wow. So this is going to be a little interesting. Now what I usually do here is more of a hook. Let me see. So here's one top spin right around here. This should be pretty good. I am going to hook this and maybe right around here. Full curl this around here. Just full foam curl with a full hook. We're just trying to bend it around the corner, kind of get it up here, kind of nice, not too aggressive, and that should be more than enough to get us to the green from there. But this fairway can be a mess, and it's also going to be very dependent upon, you know, rollout, where you land it, stuff like that. But let's see what wind we get for the second. Especially if you're playing a Thor 5, you're not going to have a lot of curl. It's probably best to just kind of take a Kingmaker, and you know, you can pop it over here. There's no way of knowing. It looks like he's going for a hook. But you can go up there straight. There's no way of knowing if that's going to be better or worse than what I did. Another thing you can technically do is try to beat it out up there. It's obviously nice to get farther than that, but especially with that headwind. So he might actually, you know, that might actually help him just as much as it helps me. Is having a mega headwind like that might make this hard for me to actually complete this one myself. And you can see this fairway is very up and down all over the place. So there's nothing given here, no question. He thinks, you know, he's saying good game. So trust me, nothing's given here, dude. So I'm going to curl it, and I'm going to use about half power. Now that curl is just to kind of correct what you're seeing on my, you know, that wind being a little bit angled. So that's why you saw me putting that curl, was just because of the angled wind. So it wasn't, you know, I was trying to hold the line. So what you saw me doing there was more of a just counter wind technique. So I do want to point that out for you guys, just to keep you constantly thinking about that. Like I mentioned on several streams, no matter what the shot is, every time you're shooting, make sure on every shot you're thinking how the wind is going to affect the ball guide, because it's not going to run out like pictured. So you always, on every shot, need to be thinking, you know, how can I fix the ball guide and get it, you know, altered and more as to what it needs to be. So you always have to be thinking about that, no matter what. There's virtually no exception. And we're not even going to putt. That putt can be a little glitchy. That guy doesn't care. So we'll just be okay. I hate seeing guys not play it out, you know. There's no way of knowing for sure that I had that putt. There's no way of, you know, guaranteeing that one. But to each their own. You know, that guy was in some kind of hurry. He said good game in the bunker. I hate when guys do that. It's like, just play it out. If you're going to say good game, just, you know, forfeit out when you say good game. Like, it makes no sense to say good game and then just keep playing. Like, and then by the time we get to the green, then he does it. It's just like, it's just Jesus. I hate guys that do that. That's why I usually I don't even like touching the emoji button. I'll do it if, you know, I feel like they're being polite with their emojis. It's the only time I ever touch it, or if I know the guys. So those are really the only two ways that I really like to even touch it, because I just really dislike the emojis. I wish they would have never put it in this game. So with QB, we're going to crank up the backspin a little bit. I'm just going to kind of, try to land it more, a little bit longer. This will hopefully take the bunker out of the equation as well. That's kind of why I'm playing it this way. The goal is to kind of fly it past the bunker with that second hop and then start to stop it. And there you can see, relatively well executed. I do highly recommend, especially if you get a downhill easy win like that you just kind of crank up the backspin and, just kind of take the bunker out of play. And that's much easier to do with, say, quarterback than extra mile, because let's just think about that. A 1-2 ring pull with extra mile, you could really put yourself in a bad way, especially missing to the left there. Great balls to the left, for instance. Whereas with a QB, there's so much precision that you're not going to short side yourself. So what I like to do on this hole, which I'm sure you guys already know, is I like to use 100% curl and just kind of go natural. Aside from that, I just try to size it up power-wise. I can show you basically my landing zone I like to use, which is right in here. So right where you see the target is pretty much where I naturally like to land the ball. You can see, this is going to be about 10 rings of power. I only need about 7, so I'm going to come off of the power just slightly. That's just from sizing up the shot and just kind of seeing how things are playing out. And like I said, just going to shoot it up here and get it on. Pretty close, pretty close. So let's see if this guy can get something going. He can just kind of shot copy me a little bit. He has a very similar wind. Yeah, there you go. Nope. Don't put all that on there. So from time to time, you'll see guys try to use the back of that. That's not something that I like to do. I like to go a little bit more direct route. What I dislike most about this is you have to just curl it onto the green by like a millimeter. And when you do the curl here, that's very hard to predict. So you can never just bank on that it's going to just trickle on by 1 fraction of a yard. Like I said, if it comes in too much into the green there, you're going to just, shoot it long. It's not going to go in. Another forfeit there. We're coming up to the end of tour 10 here. Cliff hole. See what the wind is this time. Oh, straight in the face. That can be a little bit of a brutal wind for me. This is kind of worst case scenario because, this guy can get it up there to the end and potentially give himself a chance to get Holman too. We'll just see what he does, and that'll kind of dictate what I do. It's not too much power. I should be able to almost get it out that far. So that's probably a little bit on the short side. I'm just going to kind of follow suit. I'm assuming I can get it at least that far. That was a little conservative. So you're just seeing me kind of play about 5 rings or so. And always curl it, keep the momentum going away, because it does like to trickle to the right. So getting that momentum can be very useful. And we're basically both in layup territory. When we're in this distance, it would be very hard to hit a shot. I was trying to show you last time we played this, a shot that can potentially pull it off, but unfortunately we're not going to get to see that. It only works with certain winds, and fortunately we got it, but also it can still be, it takes a lot of practice, and I don't think I have nearly enough practice to execute it every time. I could very easily shoot it over the island. I could very easily, shank it into the water below. So it is, definitely a risky shot, but can be done. But not on winds like this. Here it's just going to be straight layup mode. And I'm just going to set up here and go right around 9 rings. So let's see what we got here. Ooh, he's also doing a level 10 claw here. So you guys have seen kind of the way that I do this. It's off kind of the front of the green. It's the way that I like to do it. And then side spin, very similar to what you see here. That's very similar, kind of towards the base of the shadow. It's kind of dead on the way that I like to do it. It looks like he's going roughly 7 rings on his adjustment, which is kind of max club plus a little bit extra, just to kind of hold the line, which is probably relatively good for the most part. I don't know if it's because you shoot over the water, but it does seem to overplay on this shot, the wind. So sometimes I am a little bit more towards max club, but here you do see that I am towards mid. But just like you saw, my opponent there do, I'm going to try to do very similarly. Just kind of hold the line, and I'll try to do it with the hold the line spin as well. There is 5 rings, and maybe go 8, and then just hold the line. A great ball is going to take me out of this shot entirely. So there you have that. Let's see what shootout we get. Okay, good. A little bit of redemption for me on this hole. I played it so poorly last time. I'm glad to get A little retribution on this one, because I should have never left it. I should have never left it up on the hill on this one. I kind of just lost my head for a second as to what I was doing. But had I kept it high up on the hill, so one of the things that I do want to mention, if you do play it very high up on the hill on your land bounce, it will take the shape of the fairway, and then it will almost be impossible to stay up on that top level. And that's one of the most crucial reasons that I like to actually play the shot that way, is because it just gives the ball almost no option to stay up on the shelf. But you can only virtually guarantee that when you actually do get it up on that top level. Here you see this guy curling it. Overall, not too bad of a shot. But, you know, I just like to simplify things. You really don't need to do that to get the ball rolling towards the hole, especially on a wind like this. So here we're going to kind of set up to do something a little bit more like this. And 5 rings. So notice how much into power we are. I'm going to need to go at least 8 or 9 rings here. So there you're going to see me push right around 9. I'm not going to go any additional curl or anything. And here you can see me getting very high up. That's just coming in a little bit too slow. But it is going to make it down the hill. It's just going to come up short. So I caught just a little bit bad break there. But overall, it's not going to be terrible. Just not going to win. But you can see, you know, I kind of ran into a guy who likes to emoji his way to whatever. Well, why would I say good game to you when you basically just hit emojis my entire shot? Seriously, guy, I mean, grow up. So anytime I play like that, you know, I completely write them off, and so let's take a look at this hole and just stay with KMs here. And you know, I'm not going to really use much power because you can see it really doesn't need it. So I'm just going to kind of, you know, visualize this land spot, and you can see, you know, that's at least 8 rings down. So I'm not going to need to go any power. I'm just going to need to kind of play the angle and then just kind of visualize that shot happening, and I should be good. So that's what you're going to see me do here. Ooh, bad break there, but probably we'll be able to still get to the green, especially when you beat it that far. You'd have to get kind of straight in the face, which we did. Not necessarily the all to end all though, so we'll just see how that plays out. Notice how I am into max club here, which means I will be going into power for this shot. I do want to just kind of make a mention of that. But I also want you guys to know and be aware of that you are shooting to an uphill. So if I usually play 2 per ring here, I'm going to need to come in on max club a little bit, and I'm going to play, you know, maybe more of like a 5.25. You could see what I was doing there, as opposed to going full on the adjustment because it is an uphill target. So playing it more towards mid would usually get you a little bit better. And it looks like I was probably at least half a ring. I need at least half a ring more. So maybe 5.75 would have been the spot on adjustment. Let's see what this guy can do. It's all going to depend on that wind a little bit. Might just be able to roll it out that way. At the very least, he could get it to the end, which might be good enough for at least, you know, a very easy pitch. So one of the things that I want to just make a note here, as you can see, this guy's playing kind of max full break and kind of dying it on the hole. Not necessarily the best option. Just because you have to be so touchy. So it might be, you know, if it was me, I would kind of put it a little bit past the hole. And plus, had that be coming in with a little bit more speed, it might not have broke and you might have actually held the line and actually made that one. So just something as kind of a mental tip for you guys. As you could see, he was playing, you know, almost 2 feet of break at that very last split second. It's almost best to just put it 1 foot past the hole as opposed to just kind of dying it right on that lip. And you can see that kind of cost him. Whereas if he would have just had 1 more foot of power before hitting that great ball, then, you know, he might have actually had it. So in the face again, geez. So many people love to try to go over that way. Not sure why. Let's see if he gets it. He will be able to get home if he does get it. But I just think it's such a low percentage shot. Let's see if he gets it. You gotta hit it perfect, and almost. It's very close. So, but you can see even with the layup, you know, it's very easy to get a pitch. So it might be, you know, realistically, probably the best way to play this is just to kind of just accept it and be over here. If you get downwind, it'll be even better because you might actually, you know, pull it off. We're going to rotate this way, and I'm going to go at least those 11, 12 rings. Let's just go right at max, about 13 rings. It is, you know, going to a downhill elevation, so even if you add that little bit of extra, you know, it should have plenty enough of checkup, and not to mention, you know, it's like putting extra backspin when you're going straight into the wind, so should be more than enough to kind of hold itself up. And here you're seeing me very close to the edge there, and you know, now that this guy hit the rough here, he kind of short sides himself a little bit, and it's going to be much harder now to get this one. And that's, you know, having to rely on perfect ball or great ball left. You know, you usually only have like a 2-outer, and it's only one or the other way. that it might just be, the best idea to, for the most part, just stay right, unless you know you're going to get on that sucker for 100%. You can see I'm even going to get home here. Now I don't know what the spin is. That's the only problem. So I'm going to kind of use this fairway as a guide a little bit. And I'm kind of thinking none. I should really play this a little bit more conservative, to be honest with you. I feel like there's no reward for beating it down there, but I'm going to do it anyway. I just want to see. Let's do it like this. I don't have a lot of exposure to doing this, so I don't really know the spin necessary, and I did mess it up. So that's essentially going to take me out of the hole for the hole out. That's going to be very hard to make from there. Well, that wind will help. If it would have been a crosswind, I would have really short-sighted myself. But that'll give me at least a little bit more likelihood to make that. But, at the very least, I could just, play it how I've been doing and put it to a very, very manageable pitch. And to be honest with you, that's what I should do. But I saw this guy in trouble, and honestly, I just wanted to see, at least to get some exposure. I never hit that shot ever. So I don't know if you guys remember, but from the tournament, it was more of drive it to the second fairway, so I was never laying up. And with no real exposure to Tour 10, I have no real experience with this hole whatsoever. So I just wanted to basically just see what had happened more than anything. And kind of like I mentioned, this is going to be quite the brutal hole out. I do think it's still going to be doable. I bet you it's not even, an entire ring here for the adjustment. It is probably getting close to a ring, so you're going to see me use maybe 80% of one right here. Kind of right in there. Let's see what that looks like. Perfect ball. And just a little slight overcorrection. So it was probably, 60 to 70% of a ring there that I needed to go. But at the very least, I'm more than happy to go to a shootout. Hopefully we can get a win that I don't have covered yet, and hopefully one of the new holes, and we can give another go at some shootouts. Straight in the face, eh? Gonna be pushing up towards max club a little bit. So here you're just gonna see me, go beyond the hole a little bit like this. Kind of use the slope as well. Somewhere maybe in here. And then we'll just play kind of a max ring adjustment on top. So 5 rings. 9 rings, 10 rings. You see, very easy to be relatively precise with a quarterback in hand. So this can be a very useful tool. This guy has to use more of a shot copy method because he's not going to have ball guide to rely on. And it's going to be hard to estimate what it's going to do. So you just kind of got to, get a feel for it. And also, it's going to be very critical. I don't know if you could see, but, how my ball guide was running out was very dependent upon my landing zone. So landing zone is so crucial on this shot. And here you see it is running up the hill and coming back down. So that just kind of shows you, as to how touchy that can be. And that isn't necessarily a shot that I recommend doing when you have limited ball guide, but as long as you have, say, a landing zone in mind, like for instance, if you could just kind of copy my landing zone and just kind of get a feel for how much side spin I used, how much top spin I used, and just try to replicate that land zone. Just keep in mind that I was way into the wind, so I was playing it behind the hole intentionally. So I don't know if you saw my setup. So that means you might need to crank up the top spin just a tiny bit more than you usually would. Let's say the wind was flipped and it was downwind. Well then, I need to crank down, take a bar or so off of it. So keep all that stuff in mind if you are going to be doing that. And good luck with that one. That is the first time that I've had that particular wind. I'm not even sure we've had wind in the face too often. Ooh, this is a real interesting one. If that wasn't angled, or if it was angled at a different direction, I'd go for that rough bounce up there on the first hop. It's a little too risky. Another thing that you can do, especially with a quarterback, is I can land it on this fairway, kind of like what you see this guy doing. I can do this shot. It's a little bit harder for this guy to do this shot. I'm assuming, especially with going into power, this guy's going to beat this into this bunker. I'd almost bet anything on it. So, but why not? This guy hit it in the bunker. Maybe I'll just go for that shot myself. I do want to just kind of mention the spin to you guys, full back into the, it will hop the bunker on its own. All you need to do is just kind of predict. It looks like about 15 rings. About 15 rings is where I want my landing zone to be. And to be honest with you, it probably just sets up for a perfect ball. So here you're just going to see me kind of set up right here. And let's just try a perfect ball, see what it does. Just. All I needed was some curl. It wasn't very much. I almost curled it, and I could just see the wind. Another thing I could have done is I could have aimed a couple rings to the left. I was half tempted to curl that thing, and I wish I did. I feel kind of bad because I shouldn't be here. And here you see this guy bailing himself out with perfect ball timing. I gotta hope I can do the same. My rough timing is really good. My bunker can be much more questionable. So we'll see. Got it? That's all I wanted was a shootout. So the reason, a lot of times if I see an opponent do something, I'll just copy them, especially if they didn't pull it off, for instance. Maybe, that might reinforce, help them out for next time at the very least, or vice versa, especially for these videos. If he makes a mistake, then, I'm comfortable making a mistake and just going to the shootout as well, as opposed to, trying to beat the guy outright, for example. Now, you have seen me, I did this, a very similar wind not too long ago. So I do want to reiterate to you guys that, I'm going to try to do a very similar shot to what you saw me do before. You can see this is a very challenging wind for people. So what do I say? If you guys have seen some of my shootouts, I use roughly about 4 backspin. So what's going to happen straight into the face is we're going to be more at a 3 wood distance. And I've said this a couple times, anytime you're going up a club, instead of it being 4 backspin like this, it's going to become 6 on a wood. So you're just going to see me crank it the full back, and I'm going to kind of focus on this as my land spot. So I'm going to set up to make that my land spot, and as soon as it clubs up, there it is. And I can tell that it's at least, visually 10 rings. So I'm probably going to need to go a couple more, kind of somewhere in here. So let's try this. And notice especially with the way that this hill is, I'm not going to get too aggressive to the right. Hopefully I'm going to get it to come back a little bit to and there you have it. I just kind of pop it up here, 2.65. And I was a little bit deep. I do want to mention, that's another thing. So I was at Min Club, so I shouldn't have been that aggressive. I should have just played it more spot up per ring. And what you saw me do is I think I added a few because I was playing the extra 20% when I should have just played it up. Since I was at Min Sniper, I should have just played it at Max Sniper straight up. So when you do go up to that shot, notice I landed a little bit long, and just keep that tip in mind that whatever it visually looks like, just try to play 10 rings, and I think I played about 13. So keep that tip in mind for you all. And where are we at? We're coming up on the end here. So this could potentially be our last game in Tour 10. This is kind of a road to glory for you guys. I haven't played this guy without you. In fact, you can just match up trophies video to video to see that for yourselves. That, I've basically recorded for you guys the entire Tour 10 here. And we've done it with relatively simple, basic clubs with no real issues. So here, you're going to see, I am going to crank it, but I'm not going to go completely full. But I am going to give it a little bit of power. And one of the beautiful things of this club is, its accuracy being so high. I'm sure we could go three rings left, 3 rings right, and we'd still hit it just as good. I do want to just let you know that if you are using quarterback, you are highly vulnerable. So I would almost say exclusively go Kingmakers, because you don't quite have the distance as rock. So had I had a rock 8 on, I could really go variable and put on a katana from time to time because I have 7 additional yards. So that 7-yard loss isn't going to make or break you. As you can see, we're still getting to a lot of these shootouts. Have I missed a shootout? I'm not sure. I know I've lost a couple shootouts, and it's been kind of my own stupidity, or else we'd be done this tour if it wasn't for that. So, sometimes I have mental lapses just like everyone else. So if you guys ever, struggle with a couple shots, just keep in mind that, it happens to everyone. That's the best tip I can tell you. And I just want to, first off, just kind of see kind of what we're looking at there. So notice we are into power, so we do need to go kind of an over adjustment. So, maybe more like 7 rings could be something that you want to try to hit here. There's 7. Notice we are into the tree. So I am going to just kind of gently get it from out of the tree, hopefully. Couple bit of curl. It looks like I should have probably taken off one ring to do that. Since I knew I was putting curl on it, I should have just came in a ring, and it would have been a better shot. This guy actually left himself in a much better spot than me, getting a little bit more aggressive. There's no way of knowing what that second wind is going to be, but in the instance of this, just keep in mind, you know, my mental strategy for what I'm doing. What I just did is ideal to replicate. So very good to shot copy me, especially, you know, if I'm, whether it's this guy or whether you guys are watching, you know, strategically always hitting that side spin around the trees is going to be a very good thing for this hole. And it gives you a nice cut spin angle to where you can just kind of cut spin it into the hole. Last tournament that we had here, the Juniper tournament, I was able to make this using that method countless times, maybe 5-6 times during the week over the course of 10 or 12 rounds. I know I made it at least 5 times. So let's see what we can get for a shootout here. Okay, we've been killing this one like a dead horse. I haven't won this one yet either. Oh wow, look at that wind. Well, this is the easiest wind we've got, because anytime we can crank the backspin up, it really helps our calls. So that's one of the biggest tips that I can give you, is to, if you can play this with backspin, it is a lot easier than what this guy's trying to do. Looks like he's trying to topspin the fairway. This leaves you a little vulnerable to keep it up on the hill. So let's see if he gets it. It looks pretty good. You might get that to come down. But, you know, you can potentially put yourself in a bit of trouble doing it that way. Let's see if I can't get within 262. I'm pretty sure I can. So let's see. You know, I am going to be more towards min club. You know, this is kind of the preferred method that I use. Anytime that I have to kind of bail out, you'll see me just kind of intentionally do this. And notice how the wind is kind of slightly pointed left. So I will do just a little bit of a... first off, I just want to mention that I'm going to come back right around probably 10 rings here. But in addition to that, I am going to just kind of counter that wind, since it is pointed a little bit left. Let's see what we got here. Here it's coming off the slope, very good. So I'm assuming that we are going to get easily within 2.61 here. So that's more or less, you know, the goal is to kind of get it coming off the hill with some momentum. And like I said, you know, backspin is going to be your friend. I can do that very consistently with a backspin shot. So without further ado here for you guys, you know, I want to wish you guys luck on Tour 10. I've given you 3 different drivers to use, none of which are extra mile. In fact, every time that we get up against an extra mile on a shootout, they kind of really put themselves at disadvantages, because I can just kind of take advantage of certain shots that they just can't have. And one of the biggest strategies that I can tell you, if you're using a club like this, it's almost better to set up your shot to where you can't be shot copied. You know, if I crank up, you know, if I was playing an extra mile and going first there, for example, if I just try to hit a shot that's going to be, you know, 5 backspin, for example, well, extra mile can't do 5 backspin. So setting up that way could be kind of a clutch shot. Not to mention, Let's look at the other, like alternatively, let's look at one of the other holes. So that rough bump shot that I was doing, you see how much ball guide I have. It's almost best to set up to do a shot like that because the guy with extra mile doesn't have the ball guide to see it. So if you pull off that shot, you know, as much as it pains me to just basically give him the read and be like, oh, hey, this is what your club's going to do. You know, doing that shot and pulling it off is going to be so much easier for you. And then even if he did have that visual of seeing how your spin acted, you know, actually replicating your shot once there's no more aim target on there, you know, it's going to be very hard for him to do. So anyway, you know, if you guys have any other questions or concerns, feel free to, you know, post them. I'll do the best that I can to answer them. At the very least, you know, supplemental to these stream videos, I would recommend just looking over all my Tour 10 shootout holes because I have everything very well mapped for Tour 10, and I think you can make very little work of this. I'm not sure how many holes we played collectively. You need 30 wins, so it's hard to know how many games I played, but I think I lost. Well, the easiest way would be figuring out how many I lost. So it's probably around 5, 6. So if I lost 6, that means I was probably 36-6 or something. Would be a nice estimation. So what's that work out to? 83, 84%. So that's enough rough estimation for you guys. So like I said, you know, I think this tour can be very manageable. Let's just take a look, just collectively, as just kind of a final thought. How many times did I lose because somebody got to the green and I didn't? I think you can go through all, whatever this is, 5 hours of coverage here and see that not even one time did I lose because somebody outdistanced me and could get to somewhere that I couldn't. There's still, you know, mental breakdowns that can happen, even on the holes like how you could see, you know, my one opponent on that one par 5 we just had, where he had a Pak 4 and could have just completely murdered me. He still made a mental mistake, put it in the rough. So it's very hard to actually, you know, set up to do something, do it, execute, all things considered, and, you know, walk away with a loss. So there's a lot more things that need to go right for these guys to, you know, outplay you because of distance. So keep that trick in mind, and, you know, good luck, like I mentioned, and let me know how it goes. See you guys.